Good evening, everyone. We are back with our Studio Ghibli retrospective. Today, we're going to be talking about The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, which I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. 2013 movie directed by Isao Takahata. This was actually his last film that he made for Studio Ghibli. He died 5 years, I believe.
2013 was the last album Black Sabbath made.
It was.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
was. So Isao Takahata directed such films as Grave of the Fireflies, My Neighbor the Yamadas. I think he did Pompoko, if I remember rightly, and this one. And I think knowing that now, because I watched the film first and then did the reading for the film and then found out about that afterwards. Grave of the Fireflies being one of my favorite films in the Studio Ghibli catalog, and even though I think I preferred his other films more so than you. I think that's probably fair to say, like Pompoko and things like that. They are distinctly different from the bulk of the rest of the Studio Ghibli catalog. So I always appreciated him for that, and the fact that the art style in his films is very unique and distinctly different, and again, sort of against the norm of what we come to expect from a Studio Ghibli film. And having seen this film and how it all plays out at the end, I think this is a very, very fitting swan song for his career and for Studio Ghibli in general. I thought this film was outstanding as an animated film. I absolutely loved it. This was nominated at the 87th Academy Awards for Best Animated Feature. Do you want to have a guess at what it lost to? 2013. I'll tell you this. Okay, it was a Disney movie from 2013. Let's try and work it out if you can.
Was that Frozen?
Wasn't quite Frozen. Close. Big Hero 6. Out of the two, this was robbed. If you're going to give an Oscar for Best Animated Feature, I'm not saying that Big Hero... I mean, I wasn't keen on Big Hero 6 as a movie. It's got some very, very nice animation in there. But if we're talking about just, animation in general, I've got to do the hand movements for it. It's this film. Hands down. This is probably one of the most beautiful looking films I've ever seen in my life, genuinely.
Yeah, it is. It's the animation, everything was on point. It was brilliant. It was this nice painting kind of thing. I remember you saying to me it was that like brush stroke. It's phenomenal. It's beautiful. It's it's like watching a painting moving. It's not you know what I mean? It's not anything like we've seen before. I think it is close to My Neighbor's something. What's it called?
Yamadas, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It's close to that in the sense of like the different, like it's got that black and white kind of like it's painted on a canvas kind of thing,
Yeah.
So there is a similarity there, but it's very unique in what it is. It's kind of like when Disney did Wish, where you go, okay, this is quite unique, this is quite different. It was one that stands out, and I mean they've never done anything like it again, have they?
No, absolutely, and I think the Yamadas is probably the best movie as a comparison to this. You've got those sort of like big empty spaces. It's sort of whatever the focus of the frame is, everything in the background, sort of like less detailed, and it's done very much in this sort of like sketchy brushstroke style. It is different to the Yamadas because that was based on the. I forgot the technical name for it, but when you have like a newspaper and you have like a 4-panel like little cartoon strip kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was done to emulate that style, whereas this is just this lavish like brushstroke and watercolor kind of animation. I did mention this to you. It was probably off the live stream. It's probably offline. We talked about this, but there was a game that I used to play on PlayStation 3, and I think it got remade on PlayStation 4 called Okami, where you play as Amaterasu, which is this like white demigod wolf who fights with a paintbrush, and you have to bring color back into the world. And it's all this like beautiful sort of like watercolor calligraphy kind of style to it. And it's just absolutely lavish and gorgeous and kind of like minimalistic in a way in terms of its animation and how things are detailed. But that's part of the art style, and it just looks wonderful. So Takahata actually made a comment on why he chose to go with this particular animation, because it is very different from the bulk of the rest of the Ghibli catalog. And he says that because he wanted audiences to emotionally connect with the film more, and then, quote, he wanted people to be able to imagine or recall the reality deep within the drawings. and then later went on to say, recollect the realities of their life by sketching ordinary human qualities with simple props. End quote. I think you probably could have done that with like the typical Studio Ghibli animation. I think this film could have still absolutely worked, but it just brought that next level to it for me. And the very fact that it's based on like an old, like Japanese, like 10th century, it's called the Tale of the Bamboo Cutter. This sort of almost cautionary tale, fable-ish kind of story. I think the art style just goes hand in hand with that perfectly.
Yeah, it makes it unique. It makes it very sort of. It doesn't, not saying it makes it watchable, but it makes it a very sort of, it captures your eyes straight away rather than just, oh, it's the same thing. It makes it very like, this is nice, this is new, what's this we're doing? It's really cool, and it brings you into the story. Like I've always said, any movies, TV shows, anything, it has to hook me very, very quickly for me to be interested. And that's just something like I really hate, you know, and people are like, oh, you got to stick with it. I'm like, do I have to? Like, you know, it's that kind of thing. And, you know, this brings you in straight away and you're like, okay, this is quite cool. One thing I will say, I think the beginning of the movie is the weakest point though. That's not to do with the animation. That's just to do with story wise. I think it got a lot better. I think if we're judging it mainly on, so the reason I say that is because obviously something needs to intrigue you straight away. And it was one where if the art style wasn't as nice as this, it wouldn't have taken me long to, not saying I would have definitely switched off, but you know what I mean? It would have been a whole like, yeah, okay. Like,
why do you say that? What was it about the intro in particular that you didn't
it wasn't
care for?
anything bad. It was just very sort of like, okay, this is a thing. This is what we're doing. It was this girl from like, you know, basically, you know, from the wilderness, and she grew, and you know what I mean? It wasn't anything that's captivating. It was like, okay, magic girl, cool, people playing with her, and then yeah.
I'm going to disagree with you there, because that part of the film is so important to the character, and it's a time of her life that she's trying to desperately get back to throughout the events of the rest of the film.
Oh yeah, it's important. It's just, I think, you know, it's one of those things like, you know, where even if you listen to something, you go, I see what they're doing. Yeah, that's good. But it was that where you go, yeah, that's what it was for me. Where I went, yeah, cool. But it didn't captivate me and go, oh, this is amazing. It was only after that where she grew older. And you know, where they have the what's the fucking thing called? The name giving ceremony, whatever. Mm-hmm. There's a name for it. Anyway, whatever. That's when it sort of took hold, and I was like, okay, this has now become a good movie. Like where she was running through the forest and stuff, and it became a decent watch, if that makes sense.
That's fair. I really like the intro. I think, I mean, it's crucial to the story, but I also love the idyllic quality to it. Again, it's a lot of those similar themes that we've seen in a lot of other Studio Ghibli films, where it is that importance of nature and living in perfect balance with it. And it's I think we can all connect with this sort of like the simplicity and nostalgia of childhood, and you know, where she's just growing up. She's just going about her day to day. She's hanging out with a bunch of friends, and they're just, you know, exploring in the wilderness, like building dens or whatever. It is a very nice part of one's upbringing if you're, you know, fortunate enough to have experienced something like that, or live in the countryside, you know, surrounded by fields, woodland, rivers, whatever it happens to be. I love all of that part of the film, and I love the way it looks. And as you know, as she goes on her journey, essentially, I'll go into the story a little bit for anyone who doesn't know, because I know we're sort of talking around this, and if someone's just watching this, like, I have no idea what this is about. So this bamboo cutter discovers sort of like this small magical forest like nymph spirit that is a little girl, and he takes her in. She turns into a baby, and he and his wife essentially raise her. And the film just goes through her journey, really. He knows that she's probably destined for greatness, and that she's some kind of princess or, you know, spiritual being. And then it's really sort of like the pressures of society and her parents into trying to make her into a princess, you know, a lady, if you will, you know, proper etiquette and royalty and things like that. And her struggle with that new lifestyle, and also trying to get back to simpler times. So there's a lot of themes in there, like, you know, feminism and, you know, like upbringing and the pressures of society and things like that, but also those environmental things coming through as usual, like we do with Studio Ghibli films. One of my favorite scenes, actually, I think you mentioned that this is one of your favorite scenes too, is when things become completely overwhelming for Kaguya's character, and she moves from the idyllic, sprawling, open countryside, and she moves into these very confined spaces of a palace. At first, she's laughing, she's happy, she's running around, she's exploring all the different rooms. But as the film goes on, I think it's really effective how it's animated in such a way that she's quite literally boxed in these very small, confined spaces.
She's told that she has to have black teeth. And
yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah, apparently that was a sign of, nobility and royalty.
Yeah, I never heard of that before. But she was also told she had to shave her eyebrows, and she was like, "No," and I was like, "Exactly, women, stop shaving your fucking eyebrows."
And she overhears at one point, because essentially she comes from very humble upbringing, and she's essentially paid into becoming a noble woman because her father comes into possession of lots of gold, which is also sort of given to him magically and spiritually, and he's able to sort of like buy her way in and his wife's way into palace lifestyle. And she overhears a lot of people saying that, oh, she's nothing, she's not a true noble born woman, she sort of had to pay her way in. She gets very upset and emotional, and there's this whole frantically animated sequence, and it's outstanding. I was just my jaw almost hit the floor as I was watching it, thinking about the craft that probably went into this one animated sequence alone. She starts running through all of the sort of like the paper walls, tearing walls down, which is very symbolic of her struggles and everything, trying to break through the confines of this noble life. And she just starts running into the night, just like frantically running. She's sort of like tearing off all of the finery and the robes that she's in and everything. Her hair's all sort of like messed up, and she's running through the woods. And the only way I can describe it is that how it's animated with these very sort of like fast, frantic brushwork lines. It's almost like you're part of her mental state. The animation is showing her fractured mental state so well, and it sort of adopts this handheld camera style, almost like we're following her, like we're trying to run after her.
It has a very horrific kind of like a horror kind of thing, which I thought was really cool. And the music goes with it so well, like the eeriness, and because you even have like the just everything about that. I think that was all done very, very well, and it felt like it was in keeping with the movie. It didn't feel like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? It was very in keeping with it, but at the same time, it was so like, this is a nice horror section. But then that wasn't the movie, if that makes sense. It's like, because you see some movies or some forms of media where they'll do something different for a bit, and sometimes you feel like it's a bit out of place or whatever. This didn't feel like that. It felt so like this is how it's meant to be, and it was really, really cool seeing into her mind and the way it was, and just feeling like you were there. It was done very, very well.
Oh, agreed. Bath Time says, big up the lads, watching a movie tonight, but thought I'd pop in and say hello for the algorithm overlords. Well, thank you very much.
Is the movie Last Jedi? Because if it is, I'll cry.
I've got a feeling that Bath Time doesn't like Last Jedi. I think we have discussed it in the past, maybe. I could be wrong. Here's where he says it's his favorite film. What was I going to say? Sort of one aspect of the film I wanted to bring up is just the you really connect with Kaguya's character throughout all of this. We almost focus on her entirely, and just seeing how she emotionally deals with all of these different upheavals in her life, completely moving to a different place, new lifestyle, and trying to adjust to that. She herself being this celestial being in, like a mortal body, essentially, and musing at all of the funny different social situations and social structures of the world. You have her father, who is very much the decision maker of the family. The mom is there, and she is nurturing, but she never really sees it from Kaguya's perspective. The mom seems sort of like very silent. I guess, it's that structure of the family there, that the man is the decision maker in the family. He's the one who's
just referred to as husband.
Yes. Yeah. She kind of defers to him all the time. And even when he's making decisions that he thinks is in his daughter's best interest, because he's like, I discovered you, you're this magical creature, you're a princess, you deserve more than this humble countryside lifestyle. You should be living in a palace with, alongside the emperor or in fineries or whatever. In his mind, he's doing what he thinks is in his daughter's best interest, when really it's his own interest. He's the one probably who wants to live, who wants to better himself and, be in high society and live in a palace and wear, all the fineries and whatnot. But the mom never really she never really consoles the daughter at any point. There's bits towards the end, but the mom almost seems like she's for it as well. She's sort of following the husband's lead with a lot of it. And I thought that was interesting, like an insight into the social structure of everything there, in that no one's really on Kaguya's side. She is very much alone in all of this.
The thing I found amusing, and I don't know if amusing is the right word. It's the word I'm going for, but when they're sort of like, when she's got the suitors and stuff, and she's like, I can't remember her exact line, but something about bringing a treasure, and she's like, then I will be your treasure. And I was like, that's weird though. I don't know, like just wording it like that was really odd. I was like, why would you just, I don't know, it was that very, I will succumb to do whatever. And I was like, it was just strange, but it's that traditional kind of thing, I guess, but it was weird.
I really like the instrument she plays. Is it called the
I can't remember what it's called, but yes. Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called. I need to know the name of that instrument. I would love to try and learn that instrument at some point. I don't even know if you can buy them in this country, but I've always loved the sound of that instrument. It's that I'm gonna have to try and find the name of it. It's the
like
big stringed instrument, isn't it? Let me try and find it.
It's a very
koto. That's it. Koto. Yeah. Plucked 13-string instrument. It's such a distinctive sound to it. I absolutely love it, and I like how she's having all of these like almost like elocution lessons, like trying to teach her how to be a lady and in high society and whatnot. And she's having instrument lessons, and she's just not listening at all. She's doing her own thing. But then when her father comes in and says, right, well, let's see what you've been doing, she can play it almost fluently. Because she is this spiritual creature that just grows really, really fast and can just absorb things. Another scene that I really liked and I thought was a really nice angle to the film as well was almost like the nostalgia of looking back in one's life and thinking like, oh, if only things were this way, if I'd have made this decision, if things had panned out this way. You have the character of Sute Maru, which I'm probably absolutely butchering the pronunciation of again, but he was the one who she always loved and sort of like grew up with, and they were best friends, and she always had feelings for him, but their lives drove them apart. And then towards the end of the film, there's this really nice scene where, from his perspective, he sees it as just a dream sequence. But and maybe it was just a dream, or maybe it did actually happen. But she visits the place where she grew up. I think she goes back there, and Sutemaru has now, a man grown. He has his own family, wife, kids, and the two of them reconnect with each other once again.
Kind of like Forrest Gump.
A little bit, yeah. And he's like, I will abandon everything. I'll abandon my children and my wife. We can be together now. We can run away together from everything. I'll protect you. And it is this really romantic, nice sequence where the two of them sort of fly over the fields, and this is where it becomes super dreamlike, and she's like, hold on to me, because this is where she's going to be eventually taken away by the moon people. I guess, can we call them, or Buddha himself, I suppose.
It would be Buddha, yeah, Buddha himself.
But that sequence I thought was just absolutely magical, and it's scenes like that where I'm like, this is why I watch animated films, when they can just be so large than life and just absolutely, you just sort of enthralled by the beauty of the animation that you're watching.
Carpet scene, wasn't it, in Aladdin? It was very
magic
carpet in Aladdin.
Yeah. It reminded me a bit of Superman the movie, with the flight sequence. Can you read my mind? Superman and Lois, where they go on their romantic flight together.
That was a good movie until he rotated the Earth the wrong way and we went backwards in time.
Yeah, I've come to a place of acceptance there. We've got Robin Wild, who says, "Hello, lads. How are things across the pond?"
Cold, very cold,
exceptionally cold. In my car today, I got the little the light came up on my car,
The check
saying
engine light,
with a little snowflake saying it's really, really cold. That's the first time it's done that this year. So winter is
yeah, mine
officially
said,
here.
"Be careful of ice." I'm like, "Thank you, I
Yeah.
will."
So yeah, very, very cold. What else can we say about this movie then? We talked. Let's talk about the music. So Joe
I like
Hisaishi.
the flames. That's one thing I
Oh,
want to
you
say.
did.
The flames, like in the drawing, when you get like like just the way they, I just think that was one of the coolest thing. It's little things like that. So also, you know, when they pull out like weeds and stuff, and you see like I guess like the dirt sort of crumble from it. Like it's just all it's very detailed. It doesn't look very detailed because it's that obviously quite looks minimalistic in a lot of ways, but there's loads of attention to detail in the animation.
An expression on the characters' faces as well.
Yeah,
Even
it
though,
goes overlooked, I think.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Because when you look at it, if you put this side by side with something, I don't know, from like Princess Mononoke or something like that, that's the first one that came to mind. You'd probably go, "Oh, well, Mononoke looks better because there's more going on in the frame. There's more detail. There's more color to it." Whereas this one, it does sort of look a lot simpler. But when you really break it down, the fluidity of the movements and just the brushstrokes. I mean, I don't know which one would be harder to animate. I don't know. I'm sure they both pose their challenges, but yeah, there just seems like there was a lot more nuance to this one. Honestly, I was just outstanded from beginning to end of everything that I was seeing. Because I've never seen an animated film like this. Maybe they have done films like this in this kind of style of animation. I know it's sort of like very, very traditional, almost sort of like mythic. You know, you could imagine this in like a storybook or something, maybe in this kind of animation. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was wonderful. The music as well. Now, I ain't going to say this is Joe Hisaishi's best score, but I thought that the music did fit the film very, very well. As you mentioned, there's that moment where things kind of go like a bit like horror movie-esque. Like all the music absolutely was pitch perfect with the film. I quite liked the juxtaposition towards the end as well, how when Kaguya is essentially going off to die, or she's being returned home to the moon because that's where she originally came from as this sort of celestial being. You have this very triumphant sort of like parade music, almost celebratory music that's played by the moon people. And when Kaguya's parents are desperately trying to keep her tethered to Earth and to not leave them, and essentially, go off to die where they'll never be able to see her again. There's this. It's sort of like the final monologue of the film, essentially, where Kaguya sums up what it's like to be human and says that there's love, there's grief, there's horror, there's despair, and she says, and all of that is beautiful. And as she's sort of waxing philosophical, saying, there's birds and bugs and beasts and everything, this celestial being places the robe on her, which makes her forget everything. And it's this horrific moment where you're witnessing essentially two parents losing their child in front of them that they've raised since she was a baby. And then immediately that celebratory music just kicks in and they just whisk her back off to the moon. So I thought that was an interesting juxtaposition from the music there, how you're feeling this grief and this loss alongside the characters, and then you have this happy music that accompanies it as well.
I mean, I guess we get that occasionally, don't we, in things where like the music doesn't match what we're seeing, and sometimes it is quite nice to, I don't know, sometimes it has an interesting effect, doesn't it?
And apparently Joe Hisaishi wasn't the first person who was considered for the score. So apparently Shinichiro Akebi, again, pronunciation of these names, was announced to write the score, but then Joe Hisaishi joined the following year. And it's the only time that Joe Hisaishi has scored a film for Takahata. He's usually always with Miyazaki in his films. That's sort of the collaboration between those two. But it's nice that Joe Hisaishi got one film with Takahata before Takahata obviously passed away, and it's a beautiful score. I'm glad that there's the distinct sound of Hisaishi's music over this film. I think it was a good choice.
Yeah, it works really well. It's very. I think the whole thing is pretty eerie. To be fair, all the music will really listen to it.
Robin says, never heard of this movie, but the thumbnail actually interested me. Very unique.
It's the cherry blossoms, isn't it? That's the thing.
So nice.
I love the cherry blossoms. And when you, because in Japan, I think they have like, I don't know what they call it, but it's like a snowstorm of like, because when they all wilt and like it all like it's like like they're snowing kind of thing, and I think that's really really cool. That's one thing I'd want to see in my life.
It's so iconic to Japan, isn't it? You see so many Japanese films or whatever that include them in some way. You know, they're very significant, I think, and I mean they look gorgeous, especially in animation as well. I would genuinely really recommend this film. I think that if you are a fan of this art style or Japanese culture, I think because it is very much a, let's say, like a folklore tale. I guess it could be, like an old short story, essentially, like a bit of a fable or whatever. I think it's a really good one to jump into. And I think it's a unique one to the Studio Ghibli catalog because there isn't really, with exception to My Neighbor the Yamadas that we talked about, there isn't really an example of another film in the Ghibli catalog that looks like this, that has this sort of aura around it that this film does for me. This is easily one of my favorite films that we've reviewed in this retrospective so far. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say it's my all-time favorite. If we're talking animation-wise, it's very different to the style that we're used to, and I love the style of Princess Mononoke, My Neighbor Totoro, and all the other films that we've talked about, but this might lead the charge for me in terms of animation if we're just reviewing it purely on that, because I was just captivated by it from every single frame, from beginning to end.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I don't know if I don't know. There's been some that are so fluid that I don't know if I'd. But yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
And it's times like this where the Academy Awards annoy me. It's like you'll see a film like this, you get to a point, you've watched loads of animated films, and it's almost like everything's kind of run of the mill now. Animation can be absolutely gorgeous, beautiful detail and everything, and I'm not knocking all of the really hard work and the artistry that goes into producing an animated film. But every now and then, an animated film will come along where it will just blow everything out of the water. And you'll go, I genuinely haven't seen anything like that before. This has pushed the art form.
What's that movie called? Stray, was it?
Oh, Flow.
Flow.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually won, which I didn't think was going to happen. That was a very competitive year. There was a lot of good ones from that year, especially like The Wild Robot, which I thought had it in the bag and is a great film in its own right. I really liked all the other ones we talked about that year as well. But yeah, you saw Flow and you were like, okay, we haven't seen anything like this before. There's no dialogue. It's all visuals. It's visual storytelling all the way through. And it was incredible. Before that point, I'd have something like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which was like Sony animation. I hadn't seen that particular art style. It blended loads of art styles together as well and produced a very unique, brand new visual experience for me, which has now been copycatted by loads of other films after that. So now that's almost become a little bit run of the mill. This film,
yeah,
I haven't seen anything like this.
I've seen many paintings like it.
Yeah, but not in terms. Well, as I say, there might be other feature films that are done exactly in this style, but I just haven't seen them.
Yeah.
But then when you see like, oh yeah, Big Hero 6 one, it's like Big Hero 6 is fine. It's really good animation. It is good animation, but if we're talking about the art form, best animated feature, I would have given it to this personally. But hey, I'm not part of the Academy, so what do I know, right? But
it's like, remember when X Factor used to always win Christmas #1?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and then they got Rage Against the Machine because why not?
Well, that's why Flow was such a big shock, because usually Disney or Pixar, it's usually shared between the two. It's essentially the same company though, isn't it now? They would always win every single year. So when Flow won, we were like, this like really small budgeted movie that was done on Blender, is that what it's called?
I think it was, yeah.
Pretty. I mean, it was a lot of budget behind it comparatively, but it's a small budget compared to what Disney are producing for their budgets and Pixar and whatnot. It's this very low key film. Was it I don't know if it was a directorial debut. It could have been, and it beat Disney and Pixar at the Oscars. It's like, holy shit, the game has changed. Like, so it'll be interesting to see what gets nominated this year. Well, for next year's Academy Awards, because we reviewed it in, was it like March or February or March? We did the Oscars this year.
Oh yeah, shit, we're in November. I thought we were at the beginning of the year for some reason.
we'll see what gets nominated for next year. I actually have no idea. I guess like Zootopia 2 will be nominated for Disney. That'll be that one. What else have we had? Genuinely, I'm drawing a blank. We had any other animated movies from this year? We must have done. I'll have to check that after the live stream. Robin says, I love how traditional it looks. Something that bugs me about anime is how modernized and aggressive it looks. What's your take on that? You watch more anime stuff than I do.
I wouldn't say it looks aggressive. I would never say it looks aggressive. I mean, the thing is, when you say modernized, because I've looked at comparisons, so Dragon Ball would be a good one where you look at the comparisons of the original Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Super, and it does have more of a refined kind of look to some of it. But I've always seen anime as very. It's the thing I like about anime is they've always kept that 2D sort of thing, whereas now obviously Disney and stuff, they're always going for that 3D crap. And this is, every time I watch a form of anime, it's like this feels more nostalgic, that kind of look. I wouldn't say it looks aggressive. That's an interesting take. I've not thought about that.
And I haven't seen enough to give an opinion on it, really. So I'm working on that, though.
It looks aggressive when there's blood spraying everywhere. That I'll agree with.
Yeah. And Robin says, what has been the worst of these Ghibli films?
The fucking raccoon one. The fucking raccoon one.
Nah. So you're saying Pompoko.
The name. That's how bad it is.
I couldn't disagree with you more on that. Let's see. My Neighbor the Yamadas, I wasn't really into, but I really appreciated that art style, and there were some like funny little vignettes and some of the like the character moments. There was like the old grandma that just didn't give a fuck, she just spoke her mind. Like there was some good comedy in that. I would probably say sorry?
Was it a big snail? There was a big thing. Was it a slug? Can't remember the fucking thing, but there was a big fucking thing in it. There was a big insect thing. Slugs aren't insects, but you know what I mean? A big small creature.
A big small creature.
What? It was a small creature.
My Neighbor the Yamadas?
Yes. There was a weird scene.
I don't remember that. Do you not
There's
remember
some weird shit in it, which was cool.
I'd probably say the worst for me so far is Tales from Earthsea. I thought it was just like a bang average movie. It just sort of felt like a generic anime film. Really proper mid film. I'd give it like 5 out of 10 kind of thing. It just didn't have that same whimsical feel to it, or the sort of like the Studio Ghibli stamp of approval, and does kind of stick out from the rest of them, I would say. That being said, give it 2 weeks. We're approaching a film called Earwig and the Witch, which is done in CGI animation. It's the only Ghibli film to be done completely in CGI, and is ranked as the worst Studio Ghibli film, or film that's affiliated with Studio Ghibli. So my answer could change. Give it a couple of weeks.
My favorite is Totoro. That's the best one.
We'll be doing a ranking probably of all of these. It's actually going to be really difficult to, I won't say remember these films. I can remember aspects of them all, but because they're not quite as fresh in our mind. It's like remember back to Only Yesterday or Kiki's Delivery Service. It's like I remember bits of that, but
yeah, I think the reason Disney are more fresh in our minds is because we've just known them as well. We've grown up with them, and we've like Kingdom Hearts as well is one thing that made them just like they've always been there in different forms of media as well. And Disney can be parodied or used in adverts, and it's around you all the time. Is my point. Yeah. These Studio Ghibli ones, are sort of watch them, and then if they're average, we sort of think back and are like, yeah, that was. Hang on, I'm trying to remember. Like, you know what I mean?
For me, it's just going to be the ones that sort of stay with me. I remember certain scenes or musical cues or particular imagery around it. I think that's probably what I'm going to be rating most of them on. But yeah, definitely all of these definitely beg for multiple viewings, and I will at some point. It's just that that for the necessity of this retrospective, we've had to watch one a week and move on to everything else and watch some other stuff too. So, but I will definitely come back to these films at some point. I think it'd be an interesting comparison to then watch the dubbed versions on my subsequent rewatches of a lot of these films, because and just to see if that changes my perspective on them and my enjoyment with some of the ones that maybe I didn't care for before. I don't know. What was the English language like one on this? Because this one was so traditional, and because I'm so used to watching them in Japanese, I couldn't imagine this one in English.
there was a couple, like I think the actual voices and stuff worked really well. There was a couple of words that were different. Because like I say, I have the subtitles on as well, just to see the difference. But I'm trying to think what, like, there was like a moment like she says dad in the Japanese version, but she says papa in English, which I think is a nice translation because it's quite that young girl kind of thing. And obviously there isn't a word for that specifically in Japanese, so it would just be dad or whatever. There was a couple of others. I'm trying to think what exactly they were, but there was one or two little differences of words that were said. But yeah, I think the voices were. I think the voice acting was great in it.
You had actually, I guess we should have opened with this. You came to the realization pretty quickly watching this that I feel like I've seen this movie before, and you had seen this film before, hadn't you? We thought this was going to be a first time watch for both of us. It was for me, but you'd seen it before.
I don't remember it loads in the sense of like before it. I was like, I didn't remember the name, so I was like, oh, okay, I just put it on thinking, yeah, whatever. And then I watched it and I was like, I feel like I recognized something. I didn't recognize from the animation straight away. It was just a couple of the characters. Like right at the beginning, I recognized it as well when they had like obviously she's a baby and they have her in like in the air and all that. I was just like, I swear I've seen that. And then didn't know if I confused it with the Lion King with the whole like I didn't know which one it was, but I swear I've seen this. And there was a couple of other things. I was like, yeah, I've definitely seen these things, and things would happen. I was like, yeah, I remember that. And then I just sort of clocked what was kind of going on, and then I did Google it as well, thinking, I swear, and I was looking it up and I was like, so this happens then, everything. I was like, yeah, I remember this bit at the end, and like she's going away and it's like she's on that, what's she on, a cloud or something?
Yeah,
it's like
a cloud.
Yeah, and so like and I was like, yeah, I recognize these things in my brain. I saw like the earth like really small and that, and then it came to it and I was like, yeah, it was that. It was like a weird, I couldn't tell you beforehand going, yeah, I remember this and this, but it was just as it happened, I was like, yeah, I've seen this. I don't know when. I don't know if it was on.
I was just about to ask, can you remember when you watched it?
I don't know if it was just on in the background, if it was something like it probably was. It was I was probably at some point in my life, I was probably building Lego and it was on in the background. I don't know. Like it was just, I just remember bits like that. And as I watched it, it all just like came back to me like a jigsaw. And I was like, oh yeah, that was. So yeah, I had, and it was familiar. And I remembered as well when they're all like, what is she in? Is she in like behind that curtain thing? And they're all like the suitors and stuff are like talking to her. And I just remember that it always reminded me of like the three wise men, like the fucking, Jesus thing where they were like, I bring you this and all that. And yeah, I don't know when I watched it, but I have.
Yeah, the plot on IMDb almost makes it sound to be a film that it isn't. So I'm just going to read what IMDb says the plot is. It says, Kaguya is a beautiful young woman coveted by 5 nobles. To try to avoid marrying a stranger she doesn't love, she sends her suitors on seemingly impossible tasks, but she will have to face her fate and punishment for her choices. That moment, the whole thing with the suitors, is such a small aspect of this film. It's almost like a little vignette within the film, isn't it? It's just like, this is where the plot is now, or there's this moment with the suitors, but I wouldn't say that's the plot of the film. That's just a very small aspect to it. I actually really liked that. That was the part to me that felt very storybook fable kind of thing. It was like there were these 5 suitors and they all said they were going to get these specific impossible treasures. One had to try and I'm trying to think of the order of them. One said he was going to bring back this glowing branch of something, and he had some people make it and he didn't pay them and they demanded payment, and it was all a ruse. There was one who said he was going to get this jewel or gem from the throat of the dragon or something. And this dragon was like a storm cloud, and he bottles it. He gets scared. He chickens out, and they all have a different way of failing their task. I thought that was really fun, that part of the film, but it's not the whole plot. It's a very, very small part of the film, that section. So a bit misleading.
I forgot what I was going to say. Doesn't matter.
What was I going to round off with? I was going to mention something about this film. I was going to say, this is the longest Studio Ghibli film out of all of them so far, at 2 hours 17 minutes. But I thought it was a good length. I wasn't sort of going like, oh god, this film's agonizing. I was just totally engrossed in this film beginning to end. I thought it was a beautiful tale, Could you have trimmed some bits out of it? Maybe, but I thought it was just a really, really good character piece on Kaguya. And one of the aspects of reading the original story, which was what did I say it was called? The Tale of the Bamboo Cutter. Takahata mentioned that, I mean, I've never read that story. I don't know about that story, but he said that one problem he had was that with that is that he didn't really have empathy for the main character. He didn't really understand the main character and didn't really have any connection to the main character in that story. So that was something that he wanted to change with his film, with this. And to that end, I think it was a huge success because I liked that we see the world basically through her eyes. There's a bunch of other characters. There's her parents and the people that she grows up with, her friends and whatnot. But really, we're seeing her at the front and center of all this, trying to process everything, trying to adjust to royal lifestyle, and essentially all of her freedoms and wishes and wants slowly fading away and until she's completely diminished. I thought it was beautiful at the end where she does deliver that speech saying that everything that she's not ready to leave Earth. There's so much beauty there, and there is pain, there is suffering, there is stupidity and whatnot, but there's so many great things. And then that's just all taken away from her, and she's whisked back to her life. She essentially dies. And I thought it was probably, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but this is what I drew away from it, was sort of the frailty and briefness of human existence, is that we get a very, very short go around on this planet, and there's good and bad stuff in there, and there's beauty to behold, but essentially our time on this planet is finite, and there is a beauty to that singular moment. That's sort of what I took away from it, and if that was the intention, then I thought it was beautifully handled. If not, well, that was my individual takeaway from the film. And I thought it was exceptionally done. This was, I don't know if I'd hail this as like one of my favorite animated films of all time, like, because I'm new to it. I watched it today.
I think what I was going to say is Kaguya as a character, I think, is a really nice, sweet. Like, she does feel like, what I mean, she does, for the 2 hours that obviously we spend with her on the screen, she does feel like a nice, like, you want nice things for her, you want things to be like, you know what I mean? It feels very like, so when like I think that's why as well, like I've said, when she says the whole like then I can be your treasure, I think that's why I found it weird. So I'm like, she's just this sweet character that you're like, that just is weird. I don't know, you know what I mean? It's like when you see a character like that so I mean, if let's say it's a movie series or a book series or something, and then a character dies, you're quite attached to them. Like, that's quite sad. It was kind of the same. Like, it was quite easy to feel quite attached to her as a character. So I think that's one thing they delivered really well, to really feel like she was the character she was, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, you're just seeing that sort of like the freedoms of this young woman being taken away from her, and because she doesn't know any different, she's just sort of going along with it to please other people, and all of her want. Yeah.
What's that movie with the really simple monk guy who doesn't open his eyes?
The simple monk guy.
Yeah,
that doesn't
there's like
eyes?
he has like he like it's an animated movie, and it's really bugging me because I swear it's one of the movies we've done, but I don't know if it's a Disney movie. It is. It's a Disney movie.
As a monk.
Mulan. There's that's it. The guy, he's not a monk, but he looks like a monk. He's the fucking big,
Chiempo, the big fat guy.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's just come into my head for some reason. I don't know why. I can imagine him walking.
I mean, that's China, that's China, but
I can imagine him walking with the suitors. It's the same thing.
A girl worth fighting for.
Yeah,
that's the guy. That's a good fucking movie. I love Mulan. I absolutely adore that film. Robin says, I've seen Kiki and remember literally nothing. I just remember the emotions I felt when I watched that. And I just really liked the setting of that film. I liked the quaint little village lifestyle of it all.
It was nice. It was a nice movie. I just remember Fish Pie. That's what I remember. It was a good movie. It was. To be fair, it was, but it's an average movie in the sense of it's not the standout, like, oh my God, it is just one of those where it'd be difficult to rank.
Yeah, different Kiki. So apparently with this film, I've seen the finished product, I've seen the film, and I absolutely love it. And the whole time I was thinking, like, I would love to see how this got made. There is apparently a feature-length documentary telling you exactly that, of how it was made. It's called Isao Takahata and His Tale of the Princess Kaguya, feature-length documentary film. I'm gonna have to see if I can track that down somewhere. I doubt that would be on Netflix. Maybe. I'm gonna quickly check on my Netflix to see if it's on there, because if it is, I know what I'm watching. Because if it shows you the making of this film and the artistry behind it, I think that would be really, really cool. Also,
No,
Netflix
I
is
know.
listening to me, because we've just talked about Kiki's Delivery Service, right? About witches. It's just come up on my main page. Mary and the Witch's Flower, and it looks exactly like Kiki's Delivery Service.
I just thought, right, there is so this art style. I knew I'd seen a couple of things like this, whether it be like in paintings or whatever. I used to watch. There was a videotape I used to watch when I was 6, I don't know, 5, whatever. But at that age where, like, because when I was younger, what used to happen is when it was like Saturday night or Friday night or whatever, but I'll say I was 5, 4, 6, whatever, that sort of era of my life. My mum would always like put on like a video for me when I'd go to bed. Like, it was always like Looney Tunes or Tom and Jerry or something like that. And I had this video of like it was like different fairy tales of like Beauty and the Beast. I remember Little Mermaid. I can't remember all the ones, but they were drawn in this sort of art style where it was nice sort of storybook kind of thing. But instead of it being fully, it was like a little bit animated, but more just stills. But you know, when the stills slightly move, okay, it was that kind of thing. Yeah, I just remember that right now. And that was the one video I was allowed to watch if it was a school night. Because if it was a school night, I wasn't allowed to watch a video because it's like it's a school night. But that was the one that was like, okay, well, if you go to bed an hour early, you can watch this and fall asleep. And I just remember that. And I used to always watch it. It was great.
No, I've never. Was it the actual Disney versions, or was it just like the
it was.
tale?
I think it was just the fairy tales based on like. So it was. I think they chose ones that were Disney movies because it was that, but it was like Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid. Could have been Snow White. I feel like there was one or two others. So there might have been like Thumbelina or Rapunzel, because by that point, obviously, we never had Tangled. Like, I think there might have been one or two, but mainly it kind of stuck to ones that were more well known. Because obviously, this was when was I 5? 99. So do you know what I mean? It was just after like the end of the 90s after that. So it was kind of taken from that. Like, everyone knew of Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid and Snow White. It was that sort of era. So yeah, it wasn't the official Disney versions, but it was. I remember the Beast had like a blue, like, you know how he wears the blue tuxedo sort of thing. He had that, but he was thinner, and I remember the way he looked. It was really cool.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one. That's probably like a good sort of foundation as to why you're so much into your fairy tales now and everything, because you've been.
That might be. I love that. That was a great video. I don't know what it's called, which is really shit because I'd love to know what it was called now and find it. It's great.
Robin says, not Ghibli, but would you guys review Castlevania? I haven't seen it, but it looks interesting. Yeah, I just checked on Netflix. That's 4 seasons at the moment.
Not seen it.
Is that the one with Richard Armitage?
Is that the one about vampires?
Yes, yeah, it's based on the video game series. Yeah,
I've heard of it.
I used to play Symphony of the Night on PlayStation 1. The soundtrack to that game is fucking outstanding. It's one of my favorite soundtracks to any game. But no, I didn't hear much about the series. Yeah, Richard Armitage, that's it. Yeah, Thorin Oakenshield himself.
I played a game not too long ago, and it was like a fighting game, and it was just these anime characters, and then every now and then there was like you could choose your characters, and there would be like you choose one, and then there was an evil version, and then there was one made like you could hit people with a broom and all that, and then it was about vampires, but it was slowly worked in like, oh, we're looking for a vampire, okay, cool, and then there was this girl, and then suddenly she just turned around and go, I'm going to eat you, and I was like, okay, fine, if that, and then you'd pull out a broom and smack her, and that's why I like anime.
I don't know if it's still ongoing at all, this Castlevania series. I mean, if it's all finished and said and done, I mean, I don't know if there's an audience out there. Well, clearly Robin wants to see us review it, but I don't know if loads of people would watch it. Season 1 is just 4 episodes. Each one's like 23 or 25 minutes long. Season 2 is 8 episodes, and then both season 3 and season 4 are 10 episodes. So
we should review Assassination Classroom.
I think
I've not watched it all, but it's an alien that is has to teach a class, and if they fail their exams, they'll destroy the world.
I think once these Ghibli films are all done, though, I think for me personally, there will sort of be a gap in my viewing material of like anime stuff.
You're going to go, there will be a gap in my life.
Well, they will a little bit, yeah, but a lot of people have recommended anime to me for years, saying, you know, there are so many great series out there. I think people have recommended Full Metal Alchemist, Cowboy Bebop. You've recommended Dragon Ball Z to me. It ain't happening. You've got stuff like One Piece, Fairy Tail, you know, all of these different series that people say are incredible, and they probably are. But I don't know. I was never that much into Eastern animation kind of stuff before. I guess sort of like very narrow-minded of me. I think probably my, you know, the media I was consuming was very much just sort of Western animation, which thankfully now, having almost watched all of these Ghibli films, I can now say that I've broadened my horizons
I like
a little bit now.
About anime as well, like when I was a kid, especially, it was a little bit more adult. That was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
like things got, and that's why, like, remember Batman Beyond, which over here was Batman of the Future. You know, remember that?
I wondered what. Yeah, I remembered everyone calling it Batman of the Future, but I was looking everywhere for that series, and I was like, I can only find Batman Beyond.
Yeah, it was weird. Over here. It was Batman of the Future for so long. But what I'm saying is that was one thing I liked as a kid, because it was a bit more adult here and there. Like there would be a little bit. It would be a little bit more violent. There'd be a little bit more use of, like, you know, sharper language. That when I was a kid, I was like, ooh, you know. And that's what I always loved about anime. There was always that little bit as well. And then when I got older, then I realized it's watered down from the manga itself, and I was like, oh, okay, it's even like it. That's what I always found great about it.
Yeah, I don't know. So maybe I could watch Castlevania. I think it would be good for me to watch some anime a little bit, just change it up a little bit, wherever I've got some like downtime or something. It is honestly just finding the free time to do it. Genuinely, I barely find time to review the films that we do for this. And I mean, we're at 2 films a week at the moment, between, you know, like the Wizard of Oz stuff we've been doing, and next week where we see Wicked and this Ghibli stuff. But we've nearly finished both of them. So we'll be finished our Wizard of Oz little mini retrospective next week, where we do Wicked Part 2, or Wicked for Good, which we'll be reviewing on Monday. And then we have got 3 Ghibli films left. So next week's one that we'll be talking about is called When Marnie Was Here. That was from 2014. And then, yeah, we've got Earwig and the Witch and The Boy and the Heron, and that'll be it. That'll be another retrospective ticked, done, off the list. Cross them all off. Good achievement. And we'll be moving on to the next one. We have got the next one planned. We're going to take a little bit of a break for January, as we mentioned on the last stream, but we've got a huge animation retrospective planned for February, which is going to coincide with a particular anniversary.
Not as big as Disney.
Not quite as big as Disney, but it's going to take us, if we stay on track with it, it's going to take us through to September of 2026. So it's going to be a big one. And there's a lot of other retrospectives I've got planned too. But as I keep saying, let us know what you guys want to see as well. We enjoy doing this. We're going to keep doing it, but you're the guys, you know, or girls, watching at home. So do let us know what you'd like to see us do. If it's like a new series or something a bit different on the channel to break it up a little bit, give us some ideas. You know, we take all of that on board as well. In the meantime, if you have seen this film, let us know your thoughts on the tale of the Princess Kaguya. I really hope, actually, if for nothing else, if you've made it to this point of the review, or, you know, whether you've seen the background imagery or the thumbnail or whatever, you've been inspired to maybe check this film out, because I do think it is an animated film that everyone should see. I think it's incredibly unique. I think it's a gorgeous film. And yeah, I think this film is going to stay with me for quite some time. Just the imagery from it, just everything, every single shot is just absolutely outstanding. So I don't know if this is going to make it into my top 10, because I think a lot of that does come from nostalgia and how many times you've watched the film, and this is still very brand new to me. But if I am going to rank this in terms of pure animation style visuals, yeah, this might even be in my top 10. I probably would rank it that high. Loved it. But yeah, please do consider subscribing to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. As I mentioned, we're sort of winding down on 2 big retrospectives that we've been doing at the moment between Wizard of Oz and this. We've still got a few weeks to go though, but we'll all be done sort of like by mid-December, and then moving on to new things in 2026, which is going to be very interesting. We really appreciate everyone that's took the time to comment along and stay with us and keep the conversation going tonight. Thank you so much. and we will catch you guys on the next video. Take care, everyone.